Hey, all you sports fans out there in the Tubosphere. Welcome to the One Man Sports Rant, talk radio version. I am your host, as it were, Will, the alternative ESPN Sports Throw. All right, so you know when you're getting this, it's going to be, 2 to 3 minutes at the most. So hear me out. I'm not going to be talking that long. We have to do a show, even in this form. It's called the DMCA, Digital Millennium Copyright Act, where you have to pay respects and give credit to, the legitimate copyright owners and go through what that statute covers. Minimal use, derivatives, fair use standard. You could also say no money exchanging hands. So there has to be an amalgamation of others' content with your own original content. And ideally, the others' content is on a minimal scale. But the minimal use covers that, as long as you're not, obviously you're not going to show 12 minutes worth of something. The good ship, sports clip, lollipop, y'all got to understand, has sailed on YouTube. We've never done that. Back in Generation 1, I used to run a law firm. I performed my due diligence. I looked into this to see if it was even, did a feasibility study, see if it was even worth the effort. So I've been preaching this more than any other sports pundit on YouTube from the word go. Just because you could do it doesn't mean you should, because it's not the right thing to do. Anyhow, save the comments for the actual event that we're bringing you. In this case, with college football live, they're doing it every day, but today was a good day to catch it. We're trying to do this twice a week. Topics coming up, because again, they're doing this every day, so I'm trying to bring you the vignette. That's our specialty. That's how it's been since Gen 1. So, one of 3 parts, parts 1 and 2, College Football Hall of Fame inductees, who made it, part 1, who didn't in part 2, and part 3 I'm not even really sure yet, because there's a lot going on. So then on Friday, we'll bring you the Friday show, and we'll go from there. Alright, so thanks for watching. No silly DUIs while you're out there celebrating your favorite MLB team or the NBA playoffs round 2. Roll graphics.
Welcome everyone to College Football Live. John Saunders here alongside of Andre Ware, and Mark May is going to join us in just a few moments' time. And guys, we get a chance to talk about Bob Stoops, one of the top guys in college football, the head coach of Oklahoma, who has some words in getting the college football world up in a stir. Here's his quotes about the SEC. So, they've had the best team in college football. They haven't had the whole conference because, again, half of them haven't done much at all. I'm just asking you, you tell me. So you're listening to a lot of propaganda that gets fed out to you. Again, you can look at the top 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams, and you can look at the bottom 6, 7, 8, whatever they are. How well are they doing? And what we, the Big 12, have 8 of 10 teams in bowl games this year. Again, you figure it out. Now, in the most recent head-to-head that Bob Stoops had with the SEC, when it's a former Big 12 team, Johnny Football and the Texas A&M.
Well, this don't count.
It's still Big 12. Johnny Manziel avoids the pressure here, takes off, tiptoes down the sidelines, 23 yards, kicks it in for the touchdown. So Bob Stoops and crew having a problem stopping Johnny Manziel. Landry Jones, meanwhile,
as a practical matter, yeah, they're in the SEC.
Picked up by Dustin Harris. And Bob Stoops and crew obviously not happy. It leads to another Manziel touchdown. And then Manziel to Ryan Swope on the slant. 33 yards as Texas A&M rolls over Oklahoma 41-13. Manziel with a Cotton Bowl record 516 total yards. So more on the SEC. Under Bob Stoops, Oklahoma has ever scheduled the SEC twice, home and home with Alabama a decade ago. Other SEC matchups for the Sooners have come in bowl games where they've gone just 1-4, including losses in their last 3 meetings while failing to score more than 2 touchdowns. So, Andre Ware, as we looked at the comments of Bob Stoops, taking a shot basically at the SEC. What do you think about a coach commenting about the other conference?
John, sometimes coaches say some stupid things, and this is just flat out stupid. I mean, you look at it from top to bottom. What conference sends every team to a bowl game? Last year, the SEC sends 9 of 14 to a bowl game, and then it's easy to sit there and pick teams out of a conference that you think, well, these are the ones that get beaten up easily. Go schedule Vanderbilt and James Franklin early in the season and see what happens there. You look at it as well. James Franklin, they win 7 of the last 8 games, and not including a bowl game win over NC State. Then go pick on Kentucky while you're at it. All they did under Rich Brooks was go to 5 straight bowl games, and Joker Phillips went to one his first year. So you talk about the other teams not having success. That graphic you showed, Ole Miss, they got after Oklahoma a little bit. When there's matchups head-to-head, the SEC by far exceeds what the Big 12's doing. You can't even really, I feel odd having this discussion, really, because 10 teams, are you serious? 10 teams in a conference with no championship game. Then the SEC, they're willing to lay it on the line, play each other, then a conference championship game on top of that. Get to 14 teams, get to 12 before we even have this discussion.
Well, let's bring Mark May in on this one and see what Mayday thinks about it. How do you feel about Bob Stoops, who, as we showed, has struggled himself against the SEC, making these comments?
I'm more worried about Andre being fired up. I haven't seen him this fired up since he's played. But for Bob Stoops, I think he's just stirring up the fan base, the Sooner fan base, the Big 12 fan base, getting them fired up for this season. Obviously, everybody knows the SEC's won the last 7 national championships. Not only that, the way that they perform throughout the years, this is the best conference by far. We all know that from top to bottom. They have 63 players drafted this year. They have more players drafted in the SEC East or the SEC West than any conference of combined players. So we know where the talent is. We know where the best teams are. And for Bob Stoops to say this, I think he's just got to sit back in his chair and, maybe he should probably call his brother Mark, because he's the new head coach at Kentucky. Is that one of those bottom teams, Bob?
Yeah, I think maybe he's taking a shot at his brother there as well. But Bob Stoops, in his argument, might say, you know what, Texas A&M left us and went to the SEC, had success there immediately, turned out the Heisman Trophy winner as well.
Yeah, and they also got swatted by Texas A&M in the Cotton Bowl since they had a little taste of that SEC defense. That's one thing they play in the SEC is defense that they don't play in the Big 12. So for Bob to say that, he can also look at Missouri. Here's the team that played in the Big 12, went to the SEC last year, 2-6 in the conference, 5-7 overall. So really it's apples and oranges, and I would take the apples and the oranges and put them in the SEC basket.
Yeah, don't leave A&M. Don't just put A&M and forget about Missouri and what they did in the Big 12 the year before they left. 5-4 in conference before they came to the SEC.
Can this come out and hurt Bob Stoops somewhere down the line if he plays against an SEC team?
Oh yeah, coaches are going to file this stuff in their lockers and for the appropriate time. But I think I agree with Mayday in a sense that this is trying to take some of the shine off the new deal the SEC just signed, and now with their own network, and fans are asking questions to him, and he's put on the spot to have to try to deflect some of that and, poke your chest out a little bit. We're better anyway. I don't think so.
Well, he's certainly got the college football world talking, right? We're starting off the show with this one. So the question is the Big 12 better than the bottom of the SEC? Well, yes and no, depending on how you look at it. The bottom of the standings doesn't seem to favor the Big 12, but that's before you factor in that the SEC has 4 more teams, so it favors them at that point. Looking at teams 5 through 10 in the standings, no contest. The SEC looks far better than the Big 12. So now the SEC has collectively set up a dynasty, but the greatest dynasty in all of college football is at Mount Union. And this week, the man who built that dynasty is retiring. Larry Karras led the Purple Raiders for 27 years. He's a Mount Union grad who has a record, get this, of 332, 24-3. That's a .924 winning percentage. Best part of the job, he says, was his relationship with players. He'll continue as athletic director. His son, Vince Karras, has been named to replace him. So, coaching by the numbers. First number is 11. How many Division III championships Karras won at Mount Union? Even more impressive, those 11 titles were all in the last 20 years. He won outright titles, 23 of them, and finally 21. Mount Union finished the regular season with an unblemished record 21 times under Karras and managed to put together the 2 longest winning streaks in NCAA history in the process. Larry Karras, the .929 winning percentage, Newt Rockne behind him at .881, and his Notre Dame coaches keep piling up. And Bob Reed, of Augustana with 86 winning percentage, but Larry Karras retiring. It's hard to believe there'll ever be another coach with a record like that. Now, coming up, Heisman Trophy winner Johnny Manziel, among many high-profile quarterbacks, getting tutelage from the man they call the quarterback whisperer, George Whitfield. Now, earlier we talked about whether the SEC is the best conference. Well, they may sign the weirdest autographs. Mississippi State head coach Dan Mullen was asked to sign a baby. Now, you've heard of that before, but not before the baby was born. Mullen was asked to sign an ultrasound by a Mississippi State fan. We've heard of teenagers being offered scholarships, not sure where the NCAA stands on signing scholar athletes in the womb. So, Mayday, you and Andre both played in college. You played in pro. He's a Heisman Trophy winner. You're a Hall of Famer. What's the weirdest thing you've ever signed?
Excluding body parts?
Yeah, excluding body parts.
I was at a resort one time, and the wedding party came through, and the bride asked me to sign her wedding dress, and I did.
Oh, my goodness. That's something you would think you'd want to keep. So, Andre, what's the weirdest thing you've seen?
I don't know if I could say here, but I tell you what, another instance, it was weird. The back of a lady's neck, raised her hair up, wanted me to sign the back of her neck because she didn't want her husband to know where she was that day.
Okay, so...
Going to hide it. And then you get the old, I'm not going to take a shower and let it wash off.